We are talking about one of the most essential ingredients for life.
I think any company would certainly want to protect the local water system. It is a logical step. It's a proactive thing to do for the community. It's good business.
It's interesting that some businesses who would not necessarily think that they have any impact at all on the public water supply might be surprised. They could be changing what they do and have a positive effect.
In water supply management, we're looking 100 years down the line. We need the supply forever, so we have to look long-term and develop long-term relationships.
Clean, safe drinking water is important to everyone, including businesses. Communities, from small, rural villages to major metropolitan areas, and businesses that supply water to the public, depend on lakes, reservoirs, rivers, and groundwater for their sources of drinking water. However, if existing or new sources of pollution render the water unhealthy to drink, a community may have to choose between building a new or expanded treatment system or finding a new drinking water source. Either option can be very expensive, and these costs are often passed on to consumers. This is why it is essential that all of us, citizens, federal, state, and local governments, water suppliers, and businesses, work together to protect our drinking water supplies to ensure that they are not degraded in the first place. A team approach. During this presentation, we'll zoom in on this team approach and meet folks from the business community and the water supply profession who have forged successful partnerships in drinking water protection. We'll find out what some businesses have done to protect local water supplies and what motivated them to do it. Finally, we'll underscore the important role that businesses can play in educating their communities on this subject.
What we're seeing in terms of the overall picture for water over the next few decades is that demand is increasing, supplies are not increasing, and businesses are being affected, and so businesses have a very strong invested interest to ensure that they have adequate supplies of clean water for the future.
It appears that when businesses and water suppliers work together that it allows a trust to be formed, and the public awareness that comes from the efforts to protect a water supply makes everybody understand more why it's so important.
A major part of that awareness is having an understanding about how our everyday activities can affect the quality of our drinking water sources.
When you're talking about businesses, you're really talking about urbanization. You're talking about impervious surface. You're talking about fuel tanks. You could be talking about chemical storage, trash disposal, and then the issue is where are the catch basins, and do those catch basins go into your water supply. It's the quality of the stormwater coming off these sites that is our biggest issues.
Recognizing that drinking water protection is everybody's business, many businesses have voluntarily become a part of the solution by taking action to help protect local drinking water sources from potential contamination. How? By identifying potential risks that their operation might pose, and then taking steps to eliminate or minimize those risks. Some businesses work with community leaders and water suppliers to monitor water quality and to ensure that existing and future drinking water sources are protected. Others help educate those who live and work in the community on ways to protect drinking water. As a team player in protecting drinking water supplies in your community, you will gain a greater appreciation for the local land-use water supply connection and the ways in which your business activities may influence the local drinking water protection picture. The water supply watershed provides the key to understanding these connections. A watershed is an area of land that drains into a particular river, river system, or other body of water. Much like in a bathtub, where all the water drains to one outlet. In the watershed, rain and snowmelt flow downhill through brooks, wetlands, drains, and ditches into rivers, lakes, and reservoirs. Much of this water also percolates into the soil to become groundwater. Groundwater is an integral part of the watershed system. As water flows over the land's surface, it picks up contaminants and sediments in its path. Likewise, when harmful substances leak or spill into the subsurface, they flow into the groundwater. Ultimately, what happens to water in its journey through a watershed affects the quantity and the quality of the water, water that may serve as a local drinking water supply. This is why it is so important that we take steps to make sure that our daily activities within that watershed do no harm. The good news is that with this very basic understanding of the land-water-human activity connection, we can easily direct our behavior toward preventing or controlling potential water supply threats.
My experience is that most businesses are willing to help if they possibly can. But we need to get out and let them know what they can do and give them guidance and be willing to help them in any way we can to get to the common objective, which is source water protection.
Mario Marini is the owner of one such business. He has incorporated a number of pollution prevention strategies into his farm operation in Ipswich, Massachusetts. Recognizing that part of his land sits within the watershed of Bull and Dow Brooks, major feeder streams to drinking water reservoirs for the town, and that another part of the land sits within a groundwater protection zone, Mario has been working to reduce the amount of chemical pesticides and fertilizers applied to his crops. To do this, he uses a farming method called Integrated Pest Management, or IPM, that combines organic methods with the prudent use of conventional pesticides. During the growing season, he hires an IPM scout to check his fields on a regular basis to determine when and where pesticides should be used and just how much fertilizer is really necessary. When his fields aren't in use, Mario plants cover crops such as ryegrass to create a deeper, healthier soil, reduce the need for adding nitrogen, and to prevent erosion of the soil into nearby water bodies. In nearby Lynnfield, Massachusetts, management at the Sagamore Spring Golf Club have bucked the established turf maintenance practice of applying high levels of fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides by instituting an environmentally responsible land management program. Part of the Sagamore Spring Golf Course is located in a drinking water supply area. The pumping well is within 400 feet of the golf course property. To prevent chemicals and nutrients from entering wetlands and groundwater, the course has been weaned from chemical dependency. Now, only organic fertilizer is applied. Chemicals are used on a spot treatment basis only if a disease occurs, which actually saves money. Mow lines around ponds have been pulled back to allow for a wide vegetative border that traps and filters runoff before it enters the water. Back in the maintenance area, machinery is washed off in a designated location adjacent to a low-cost biofilter that was designed and constructed to handle grass clippings, oil, gasoline, and other debris. As the rinse water washes into the biofilter, the oil and gas are separated out and removed before entering the pond. The folks at Marini Farms and Sagamore Springs Golf Club recognize that what they do on their land can affect a public water supply. While this may be basic knowledge to water supply professionals, most businesses are not aware of their relationship to water supply sources.
Well, I think it's incumbent on water utilities or the people that are in the local communities to make the businesses know what is in the areas where their businesses are located. If they are in a water supply protection district, then they should certainly be aware of it, and they should certainly be able to work towards protecting that.
Businesses and communities do work together a lot in terms of protecting the water resources. It can be happening on a small level in terms of a single permit decision, or it can be happening in a longer term, larger perspective.
In Leominster, Massachusetts, businesses have been very actively involved in the city's growth planning process, a process that has been going on for a number of years. Many businesses have participated in the development of the Water Supply Protection District in the city. One local developer, Peter Bavenzi, has played a lead role in protecting the lands that supply the water to the city's reservoirs.
A number of years ago, the piece of land that really initiated the city's open space acquisition program was a piece that Peter Bavenzi had become aware of that was available for development Peter bought that with the intent of working with the city to protect that, because that particular piece would drain to the distributing reservoir, which, because of its sensitivity and the fact that we've been able to maintain the water quality there, was a critical component.
15 years ago, there was no protection for the water supply in the city of Leominster. In the mid-'80s, we made some changes to the zoning that went a long way toward protecting it. Many people felt that those changes took care of everything. We didn't have to worry about it anymore. But that really wasn't true. That was really the best that we could get at that point. Today, we're far ahead of where we were 10 years ago. And I really believe we have the opportunity, if we have some assistance, state and federal level, and working together with the local landowners to actually make a model program within this region for the protection of a city's water supply.
Water supply protection was not always a top priority in Leominster. One water supply source was lost.
We in Leominster have a perfect example of a lost water supply by design, not by accident, by developing all around it in the 50s to the point where it choked out the water and polluted it through small, uncontrollable events. Do not wait until the community is under the pressure of development to protect valuable resources. Identify those resources and protect them in advance. That is the best way to do it.
The city of Leominster still has the opportunity to control growth around its reservoir system. The city of Cambridge, Massachusetts is faced with a very different water supply protection challenge.
The city of Cambridge gets its water from the, we call it Cambridge watershed. However, the Cambridge watershed is not in Cambridge. It's out in 7 miles from Cambridge, out in the communities of Weston, Waltham, Lincoln, and Lexington. If you look at a map of the Cambridge watershed, you'll see that most of the industrial commercial areas are right next to the reservoir. And this makes watershed protection even more difficult, because the city of Cambridge only owns less than 5% of the land. So in order to develop and maintain good watershed protection plans, you have to develop partnerships. And a big part of our watershed protection program is to develop many different types of partnerships.
We're surrounded on 3 sides by the Cambridge system. The Cambridge water supply system has always been very familiar with the property we have here. We have over 50 acres here at Verizon, and it's almost been a partnership between the Cambridge Water Department and Verizon in protecting not only the water but also the land in this area.
For example, a few years ago, the company needed to make some major renovations to its roadways and parking lots, which very much involved dealing with stormwater runoff.
We were looking at other ways to collect the water and to deal with the pollution problems that can be caused by the runoff. One suggestion was a swale. We looked at swales. We brought in an environmental specialist to look at them with us, and a swale was designed for that area, which doesn't involve any special permitting in order to service it. It's very friendly to the environment. It actually enhanced the appearance of the site. It was a nice breakup between parking lots and roadways. The employees really enjoyed seeing it. It's covered with wildflowers during the summer season. It's an enhancement to the property, and it does the job very well, actually more effectively, we think, than with the traditional concrete separator underground.
To handle runoff from some of the smaller areas of the site, the company installed an innovative stormwater treatment system. This polyethylene tank collects the water and uses a stone and plant material biofilter to capture pollutants and treat the water before it is discharged to the brook.
We found that the entire process that we've gone through during this renovation program and installing these systems on this site has been a very positive thing for Verizon.
Craig Van Battenberg is well aware of the potential environmental threats his business poses. He owns an auto repair shop in Worcester, Massachusetts, and has made it his business to put a lid on potential hazards by finding ways to reduce, recycle, reuse, and dispose of harmful substances.
When you look at the automotive industry, the repair, the gasoline part, the whole thing has to do with automobiles. The main concerns we have to think about in terms of environmental issues are the fluids we drain out of somebody's car, the fluids that might be in a part that has to be handled before the part gets recycled, the tires, the batteries, the underground storage tanks where we have gasoline or maybe fuel oil, the building that we're in, and how do we get the water out of this building and how do we get the things out of the building.
In the past, many businesses got their liquid wastes out of the building by pouring them into shallow disposal systems such as floor drains, septic systems, and storm drains. Once dumped down the drain, these contaminants percolate through the soil and may reach groundwater, which may contaminate a local drinking water well or nearby reservoir. Many business owners like Craig Van Battenberg have long since sealed their drains and converted to dry shops. But others may need to beef up efforts to prevent hazardous materials from finding their way to ground and surface water. Craig and his employees have discovered an array of smart, cost-effective, and environmentally friendly answers for running a well-tuned up shop. For example,
one of the things we do in our shop here, it's been real helpful, is getting rid of the petroleum-based parts cleaner and putting in a parts cleaner that uses nothing more than hot water and soap. Because it's like an automatic dishwasher, once the part goes in, the technician can go back to work. Their productivity is up, the shop is cleaner, the parts going back on the car cleaner, but all the hazardous waste associated with cleaning parts is eliminated because the soap and water is the only thing doing the cleaning. The part goes back on clean, and what's left over, it can easily be recycled. When you're a professional and you're running any business, but particularly the auto repair business and service business, where there's so many facets to the environmental issue, you need a trade association, you need outside vendors and outside support to help you find the answers. The answers are there, you just need to discover them, use them, charge appropriately so you can afford them, make it just the culture that you're going to run your shop in, and then you're truly a professional.
the actions that businesses take to protect drinking water supplies can extend beyond their day-to-day operations.
They can play a major role in the community in terms of raising awareness of the water quality concerns and also providing people with the answers for protecting water quality. And whether that's, stocking a certain kind of fertilizer or doing work in a manner that's going to help protect water quality, they're in a key position.
The need for increased public awareness is especially important in the Sebago Lake watershed in Maine.
The unique thing about Sebago Lake is it's not only a major water supply in the state of Maine, but it's also one of the most popular recreation destinations. There's a lot of development around the shore and in the watershed, and more still coming all the time. So it puts us in a unique position of needing to protect the water supply as a drinking water supply, and also trying to manage the activities that go on around the lake in order to do that. And that's a big job.
Yeah, milfoil is a very...
The Portland Water District has worked to cultivate a partnership with local businesses to help get the word out on maintaining water quality in Sebago Lake.
One of our major concerns is polluted runoff. Polluted runoff basically comes from all kinds of human activity around the watershed that can decrease water quality over time. What we're trying to do is prevent Sebago Lake from going down that road toward that decline in water quality. To do that, it's really a matter of education and working with the people that live around the lake and use the lake, and businesses who get their livelihood from the lake. Everyone has, because it's a problem that everyone helps to generate, everyone can really be part of the solution.
A local business, O'Donnell's Nurseries, has become a valuable part of the solution by helping to educate landowners in the Sebago Lake watershed.
We first became aware of a need for protection of watershed probably 5 or 6 years ago. The Portland Water District brought to our attention that they had landowners around Sebago Lake, which is their primary water source, who did not have protective buffers, and that a lot of pollutants were washing directly into the lake. And they wanted to address that and correct that, and they asked for our assistance. They had some handouts that they had produced that we looked over, came up to speed a little bit on what it was that they were asking for, gave them some suggestions as to different plants and different ways they could present it, and basically have worked with them for several years now to not only work up some designs and some suggestions for homeowners, but also make it a little bit easier for them to fall into it. Instead of doing the entire thing at once, they were able to do it in phases, and also came up with a program where we discounted plants going into a buffer, and the Portland Water District kind of joined us in giving a rebate toward homeowners putting in buffers.
Businesses have a great opportunity to be leaders in their communities. They work with the public every day, and they can help to educate the public and also to provide the materials that they need to go about their activities in a more lake-friendly way.
Many strategies are available for preventing or controlling threats to water quality. The term Best Management Practices, or BMPs, is used to describe the protective measures that have worked best over time. BMPs, in conjunction with regulatory approaches such as ordinances, bylaws, and prohibitions, can be used by local governments or water districts. BMPs are also often implemented voluntarily by businesses through projects such as green belts, buffer strips, integrated pest management, and education.
The way we've strategically placed the green ring with
There has been a good
cooperation
start.
organizations like
There are a lot of communities that are working in partnership with businesses. They've had good results, and a lot of trust has been garnered through these partnerships.
The water quality is very good, but we have such a high potential risk. There's a lot of activities out there that could happen.
I would rather be 100 years from now looking back at a community that still has pristine water than to a community working on the technology to undo what this generation did. Forever should be the objective.
As we've seen, businesses, water suppliers, and communities can work together to protect our nation's drinking water supplies. As stewards of one of our most precious resources, the U.S. EPA, state agencies, drinking water suppliers, and the business community must work together as a team to ensure that our water supplies are not degraded. The state drinking water programs are actively involved in assessing drinking water sources for more than 150,000 public water supply systems in the United States. New state source water assessment programs are aimed at gathering information about public drinking water supply sources and identifying potential threats to these sources. This important information will be made available to the public and will be used to assist communities in focusing their drinking water protection efforts where they are needed the most. We estimate that about 25,000 businesses in New England alone are located within drinking water protection zones. I applaud the efforts already undertaken by many businesses across the country to protect their local water supplies. We look forward to working with you to ensure that all of our communities have safe drinking water, both now and in the future. Thank you.
Whether you're a business that's located within a drinking water protection area or you have your own water supply, you can be a team player in the important business of drinking water protection. For information on getting started, contact one of these agencies or organizations.